welcome. My name is Lisa Brierley. Welcome to Soulmates and Suitcases. This is my husband, Scott Brierley, beside me. And we have a special guest on today for episode 15. Jodi Pavlock is here all the way from the US. And we're excited to have you, Jodi. Welcome.
Yes, thank you for having me. Nice meeting you guys.
Nice to
Yeah,
meet you
so
too.
we have lots to talk about today. You have quite a varied background, and
Yes.
we're excited because you are a fellow author and you have a book out that has an extremely interesting title, and we want to dive into that. Jekyll Can't Hide. It's very, very great play on words. And
Yes.
so tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started, and maybe your background, a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. Born and bred in New Jersey. I'm sure you could tell by the accent. Still live here currently. I used to be a school bus driver for almost 20 years. I started quite young. Then I made the transition into real estate investing and acquisitions. And then after my very poor choice in men, let's say, I decided to write a book. And now I'm a published author of Jekyll Can't Hide. So it's based off of my story of not one, but two narcissistic relationships I left, my ex-husband and my ex-fiance.
Yeah, so quite a lot to delve into, and I just want to make a little connection. My dad was a school bus driver, and he was my
Oh,
school bus
okay.
driver.
Very cool. Very cool. Big responsibility.
Yes, it is
Yeah.
for sure.
It's actually funny how our pick in partners, when we don't do any self-growth inside, usually is chaotic and crisis through the pretty much the whole thing. And when I watch people that, how do they do it? And it's like what it is, they've looked inside.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is what you did, like you said, with the certification. So maybe kind of
Yes.
take us back to where did this book come from? Like, who inspired you to write about this, or what did that look like for you?
I guess without giving up too much of, the story of the book, the plot and everything, when I was with my ex-fiance for about 8.5 years, there was always twists and turns and ups and downs like there are in relationships. And when I left him for the first time, I thought it was a quote unquote emotional affair. I was thinking, just tinkering with the idea of writing a book. And then he reached out to my best friend because I had him blocked, and she forged us together for a second time. I did give him a second chance, going against my own self-constructed rules. But in the long run, I'm glad that I did. So I knew that he would never change, and I had to just be slammed at the facts again. And then once I found out about the true affair, I left him. And then I'd say less than 2 months later, I was like, you know what? I'm really serious about this book because everything was so fresh in my mind. And I'm a typical Gemini. I have like 100 things going on in my mind, and I could do them all at once and multitask. But when it's up there, it needs to come out. So I just went into a portal and I'm like, all right, I never paid attention at school. I never went to college, but I know what I went through. I know I can help others. And I said, I'm going to help change lives through my mistakes to help other people leave. And it took me only a month to write the book, believe it or not. And then yeah, so it's done. Like I left my ex technically for the last time. I left him twice, June of 24. And I started writing the book the end of August 24. And it was out, I think December 9th of 24. So with proofreading and editing, that's the only thing that took a while, but I wanted it out before the holidays, so I did.
Yeah, yeah, the
Nice.
Yeah.
process. So our audience who's listening, that word narcissism,
Mhm.
is being heard a lot these days, and the awareness of that. Can you sort of shed a definition and understanding of what that looks like? Because someone may find themselves in something like that and are questioning their relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's certainly a term that's being like really rotated around, unfortunately. And right when I wrote the book, that's when it was kind of like coming to a head. There's all different forms of narcissism. There's covert, there's malignant, there's vulnerable, there's all different ones. I, kind of called my ex-fiance a covert narcissist with hints of malignant because he just had a mix of everything. So a lot of the traits are big ego, like they have to be the center of attention. They do like to put down and make jokes on others, but not playfully in a mean way.
Mm.
They like to kind of like steal the show. Everything has to be about money, money driven. Everything is about just this big show they have to put on. I have the best job. I have the best girl. I live a blessed life. They tell a lot of half truths, half lies. They'll say, "Oh, I went and fed a homeless person today." No, you just had half a meal left over and then you left it on the street for some guy. It's just like little things like that, things that aren't like specifically, say, malignant at that point, but it's these little hints. And most narcissists have like a lot of I talked about this on my other podcast 2 days ago, a lot of hidden closet addictions. Like my ex, I didn't know he had a closet drinking problem or a functional alcoholic, let's say. Drug use, hookers, sex, all these things, gambling. And, for me, when we first met, we both liked to gamble. That was like one of the only things we had in common because there's an age difference between him and I. So they say opposites attract. Well, like a narcissist to an empath, a moth to a flame. And that's how we were. And I always say we were two pieces of a puzzle that weren't supposed to fit, but just did. So when it was good, it was good. But when it was bad, it was bad. So there were certainly that roller coaster of the highs and the lows and everything. And, when we would go to the casino, it'd be all fun and games in the beginning. But then towards the end, I saw like, this is really a problem. And then, of course, he blamed everything on me. That's what narcissists do. No accountability. Everything is usually their partner's fault. And then they just keep projecting onto them. So those are certainly a lot of narcissistic traits. And love bombing is a big one. And then as you get into the relationship, you don't realize that you can be in love with your significant other, the narcissist, if you don't know that's who they are at that point, but you get trauma bonded, which is basically you're chemically addicted to them. You're addicted to the highs and the lows they put you through. So this is all stuff I had to learn through my narcissistic abuse specialist therapist. And then I also got my certification as a narcissistic abuse recovery coach. So now I know the psychology behind this. Now I can, fling those narcissists away when they try to come near me because I seem to be a magnet for them. So
And
Can you go back and describe the traits, like you threw some names out of the different types of narcissists? And there's
yes.
probably people in the audience like me that are going, what
Yeah.
are you talking about?
Yeah, they're actually coming out with more names. Like I think there's another one, like an overt or an introvert narcissist. It's all these little traits. Like a covert is more like my ex. He's like the friendly, nice guy that you see all around. Hey, Frank, how are you? How you doing? Oh, how's life? And then you would never know behind closed doors. He yells, he screams, he abuses, he puts down, he does drugs, he drinks. That's a covert. They put on this whole persona, but then behind closed doors, they're different. But what made my story different was he did a lot of the abuse in public to people I know, in front of my best friend, her husband, other friends. That's a definition of, say, a covert. An overt is more to themselves, quiet, and just has malicious intent. And then that kind of falls more into the malignant narcissism, where they're kind of like a sadist and they really enjoy inflicting pain. They just are evil to the core. And just basically their mission is in life is to bring you down, put you down, and they get off on it basically. So, I would say, oh, lucky enough to have a little bit of everything. So it was quite the shit show.
yeah.
So do you think, like the alcoholic doesn't know he's an alcoholic till he pretty much bottoms out? And he could bottom out several times before he actually knows that. Do you believe a narcissist is like that, or do you think they know what they're doing?
No, they absolutely know what they're doing. That's the difference between like that. Narcissism is classified as like a personality disorder. They actually have a diagnostic code for it if they ever went to a psychologist or anything. So I understand that part. But when there's other mental disorders, let's say like bipolar, something like that is a chemical imbalance, right? And that could be semi-controlled with the medication, behavioral therapy. A narcissist, unfortunately, this is their core. This is a personality disorder. There's no pill, there's no drug, there's no magic wand that can make them change. Yes, there are very far and few self-aware narcissists that I actually follow on like TikTok and stuff, that they have a wife and they have kids and they really struggle, but they really try to make their life better. They know they're a narcissist. They start their lives and their posts with, I'm a self-aware narcissist. So they take accountability, but that is like 0.1% chance of that happening. So I'm all about real and raw and statistics. So, when I tell other people, survivors, you know, I want to tell them the facts and say there's always hope, but don't hope and think that there's potential when there really isn't. It's the odds are stacked against you. So, with a narcissist, they absolutely know what they're doing. Drunk, high, blackout, going to work, abusing, they absolutely know 100% what they're doing. They can act all they want. I mean, they deserve actor of the year because their whole life is a facade. It's an acting job. It's like the Truman Show. That's basically what it comes down to.
And so what are those red flags of, if you're starting a new relationship, what are you looking for?
Yeah. Oh, well, usually in the beginning, there's a lot of love bombing. So, I love you very quickly, taking you out right away, putting a label, hey, you're my girlfriend, and just obsessive phone calls, checking in a lot, wanting to be with you 24/7. Now, see, all these things that I'm mentioning are textbook. My ex was not like that. So I got hooked into his world 2.5 years into the relationship where little bing, 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 bings started happening. So that's where the covert narcissism comes in. But usual narcissists, their mask drops about 3 to 6 months in. So in the beginning, like everything in life, it's always good in the beginning, right? My stepfather always says, come to me in 5 years and let me know how it is. I will be the first to say my parents were always right. Listen to your parents, boys and girls. They're well-versed. They're older than us. They're wiser. They're just trying to guide us in the right direction. So, that would be one classic example. And then another big word that's being used now that I understand it, it's called mirroring. So they are like unintelligent in a sense, like to the outside world, because they just care about themselves and their image, right? They don't care about anything else that's going on. They want their supply and they want money. Those are like the two most important things to them. So when they're getting a new supply, they're grooming them. So they're learning everything about you. And basically they see what you like, what you'll put up with, what you won't put up with, what you want out of life, out of a relationship, and then they will start to mirror you. So then you start to let your guard down and then you let them in. And that's what happened with my ex-fiance, because I was going through a divorce with my ex-husband. I wasn't looking for any relationship or anything, but I knew of Frank, my ex-fiance, from years ago. I hadn't seen him in months because remember, I drove the school bus. Hey, saw everybody. And, he worked in town too. And I ran into him and we just started talking. We exchanged numbers, but he knew I wasn't looking for anything right away. And he was known to be, back in the day, a womanizer and, drank and maybe did drugs and stuff. Again, I never divulged in that world. I don't judge, but that was 30 years prior. You would think one would grow up, right? So I was raised not to judge people. I'm like, whatever. He had his wild days ahead. Oh no, narcissists get worse as they get older. But he didn't show that to me for the first 2.5 years. Can you imagine 2.5 years? Everything's pie in the sky, wonderful, yippee, not one fight, not anything. So that's how he mirrored me, because he knew I was a good woman. He knew I didn't sleep around. He knew I was getting divorced. So he slowly hooked me in. And we weren't officially in a relationship probably till a year later. So there's a classic example.
Wow. And so
Yeah.
from the view of the narcissist, what's life like? I don't know if you can explain that because you're not one yourself, but like that's
Yes.
got to be exhausting.
It is exhausting. From everything my therapist has told me and that I've read. They portray the exact opposite of what their life is and what they feel inside. So they can portray, I live a blessed life. Look at me. I'm great. I make all this money. I live, the high life, whatever. But they wake up and they're miserable inside because they're empty vessels. They truly have no soul. And I know some people get into the spirituality part and some people don't. I call my ex the devil. I really do. And that's why on the book cover, there's a picture of a devil lurking behind me, because that's how I felt in the relationship, obviously, when, after 2.5 years. And then obviously when I left him, because it was just like nobody on this earth should hate you as much as he hated me. And for no good reason. I mean, listen, there should be no reason in life that you should hate somebody. But when all I ever did was do right by him, take care of him, help contribute, I even like tried to talk about his addictions, in a very light, mature manner and try to offer him help and stuff. Like he just did not want to come to terms. Everything was my fault, right? Something he did at 21 years old when I was only 3 years old in my mom's stroller, okay, it was my fault. So you can't rationalize with them. So they wake up miserable and sometimes they're in a better mood, sometimes they're in a worse mood. It just depends what's going on in their life. And whoever is their partner usually is their punching bag. But, don't get it confused. A narcissist can be a teacher, a coworker, a mother, a father, a best friend. It just statistically, it's usually a partner that you're with. And for me, it was men, particularly my ex-fiance. So,
And so I have a feeling, because I'm thinking, oh yeah, there's bits of this and bits of that in relationships, right? In your partner.
yeah.
And so if you looked at the other side of the coin, what is, or what are we looking for in a great relationship then?
Well, I think the basis of any great relationship is communication. If you don't have honesty and communication, what's the point? So when I learned that I was sitting on a throne of lies since day one, it was like, oh, okay. Because after the book came out, let's just say a slew of women contacted me and confirmed a lot of my intuition. We always listen to women's intuition. We should. Don't ever push it to the side because it's right. And he was cheating on me since day one. I had no idea. And especially after I moved in with him, like I think it was maybe 2.5 years. Like think about 2 years I moved in. Then it was 6 months later. That's when he dropped his mask. I was with him 24/7. We were in Atlantic City every weekend. We were on a plane. We were doing this, doing that. He was living a whole other double life behind my back. And a lot of other women that write to me, they're like, he would be sitting next to me and I had no idea he was texting three other women when we were watching a movie. That clicked off in my head. And then I would think back and I'm like, oh my gosh, that did make sense. And, I'd be upstairs watching a Lifetime movie and he'd say he'd be taking a nap. Probably was texting other women or God knows whatever else he was doing. So, you don't realize it when you're so deep in love with somebody and it seems to be going well at the time. You don't think they'd ever step out on you because it's like, why? We have a good thing going here. I thought, we're in this together for the long haul. But unfortunately, they usually can't keep one partner because that partner usually gets to see who they really are, the mask drops, and they leave. And my ex-fiance, all the women that, from whatever I could trace back, every single woman has left him. How come he's never left anybody? What's the common denominator? The narcissist, because the women can't take it. Everybody has their breaking point. So I'm pretty sure each and every woman has caught him cheating. And then it was like, goodbye, I'm out of here. So, that's unfortunate. Most narcissists wind up alone in their old age. And if they do have a partner, it's somebody who just settles for them and or the narcissist puts on this, Academy Award show and they use that person for money, which is my ex's case. Money is the be all end all for everything. So, who wants to be used at the end of the day? I was used for absolutely everything under the sun. So it's just, you have a different outlook on life when you go through something like this. It's not necessarily bad, but it's definitely, eye-opening for sure.
Oh yeah.
My previous wife, I believe she fits that bill. However, I was just as toxic in the relationship.
Okay.
And I know my mother fits the bill. And that's kind of why I asked, do you think they know they're doing it? Because I truly believe my mom doesn't know what she's doing. I believe she's stuck in trauma from all the alcoholics she's had in her life.
Like generational trauma.
Generational trauma. However, does it take away that she's a narcissist? No. Does it take away that none of her kids talk to her? No.
No.
Like years ago, my aunt flew in from Spokane, Washington into BC, and she spent a weekend or a week with me. I can't remember which. And she was peppering me why I didn't talk to my mom the whole time. And then finally, before she left, we decided I was going to write my mom a letter. And between my wife and my aunt, and my previous wife was a programs manager in a federal institution, so she had some skills and qualifications. And so we write this letter, and I go to my mom and I read it to her directly. And my mom's response was, well, people have their perceptions. That's all she said.
Wow.
And it blew, like it was just another knife into me. And however, fast forward a bit, like I've written my own book as well.
Oh, great. Okay.
And there was a gentleman, and it was about my life, because I've led a tremendous life, and very interesting and up and down. And this guy read or came back to me with some input and went, you have a lot of narcissist traits. However, I've done so much work on it, I believe, and I know, because I don't want to be like her.
Of course. Of course. And
it's like during my previous marriage, I went and seen a psychologist, or I'm going to use the word shrink because I can't think. Psychiatrist, that's it.
okay.
And his flat out words were, it's not the narcissist that ends up in my chair, it's people like you.
Yes, very true. Very true.
So it's pretty interesting. And
no, I get that. And I think like in instance of your mother, I've read like a lot of things with narcissists. Sometimes they're so, I don't want to say far gone, but just so far down the rabbit hole that they believe their own lies, and they're really in a warped reality.
Oh yeah.
So, and then that's spilled onto the children. And then we could all say we have a little bit of narcissistic traits, right? I mean, but most people don't go around destroying lives, ruining each other's mental health. See, at least like you went to therapy with your ex-wife. You recognized there was a problem, trying to fix it. See, that's something a narcissist will not do. So that's how you know you're not a narcissist. You may have grown up in a narcissistic household, but doesn't necessarily make you one. But I can certainly understand how you could, have the correlation for sure.
Now, when
just a brief pause in the show. If you'd like to dive deeper into our work, our books are available on Amazon. You can also get instant electronic copies at payhip.com/Lisa Scott Brearley authors. Now, back to the show.
Now, when you're with a partner, so your husband or your wife, and one's narcissist, and you can split that up. But when there's the connections of your mother, your family, your children, and how do you talked about not being with them, like leaving them and not being with the narcissistic sort of the people who have that. So how do you split those ties? Like I know Scott literally split the ties with mom. And so what does that look like? What do you recommend? Or
I mean, it depends on each situation. For me, the first time I left him, it was block. I don't want to talk to him because I was just in utter shock. I mean, my hands are shaking, reading the messages I was sent, because I was just like, this isn't happening. This is something out of like a bad Lifetime movie. And I love Lifetime, by the way, but yeah, I do. But it was just so shocking to me. I didn't know how to process it. So I just blocked him because I knew he was a narcissist, and I still was willing to lower my standards all the way down to the floor because I loved him so much, if that made sense, that I wanted to make it work. But I knew at that point that he was disrespecting me so blatantly. I said, this needs to stop. So I had to block him so he couldn't reel me back in, if that made sense. And then when the second time, I wasn't sure if he was going to try to reach out or not. I kind of had a feeling he was. They say when you're with the narcissist, and then like I'm an empath, you always have this soul tie. And I do believe in that because, you're with somebody for so long. You know what they do morning, noon, and night. And he's a creature of habit. And there will be times, and again, I'm on a strict no contact. I don't run into him. I will never speak to him again. If I see him, I will walk the other way. There will be never any words again. But I can feel his energy sometimes, whether it's reminiscing me, hating me, whatever it is. And I know it sounds so crazy, but people who are spiritually inclined, they know what I'm talking about. And sometimes I will have a feeling and then I'll hear about something and I'm like, yep, okay, see, I was right. Intuition again. So for me, the second time, once I knew it was a full-on affair and he was blatantly doing it with this much older senior citizen woman in Atlantic City who was married, by the way. And it was a establishment that we were at every weekend, just making me out to be a fool or a Jezebel, whatever. It's like, I'm engaged to you. We were living together. Like, we have this whole together life. And you're flaunting around, somebody from a nursing home down here. What is wrong with you, And I just had it at that point because I said the disrespect was so loud. There was no more words that need to be spoken. So I didn't have a blowout fight the second time. First time I did, then I blocked him. Second time, just blocked. And I printed out the photo that was sent. That's all in the book. And I left it on his work truck and I blocked him. So he was very shocked when he came home from his little rendezvous in Atlantic City to see that. But his last text message came through my iPad because, with the iCloud, everything's synced. I didn't answer it. I just went to T-Mobile. I said, block this number. I'm done. And then 2 months later, I started writing the book and that was it. But was it easy? No. When I blocked his number, when I was in Atlantic City with my friends, I knew that once I blocked him, there would never be a connection again. I would never take him back. There would never be another F you, hello, I love you forever, I miss you. No, no. Because they don't listen. They don't listen. They want you to fight. They want triangulation. He wanted me to argue with, the old lady. No, I'm not doing this. How old are we here? Okay. So I didn't go into it. And thankfully, I did not have an urge to ever unblock him, tell him off. Listen, with the narcissist, silence is the biggest killer. Silence is the loudest boom you could ever do. So what I did was I went silent and I shut down my Facebook and I opened a new one. And less than 6 months later, Jodi wrote a book. What is this about? I mean, that was a shell shock to the town. That was like the biggest news for how many months? Because we were like the it couple for how many years? But again, my book is not about revenge. This is teaching it's more geared towards women, but it certainly can happen to men too. Just about what I put up with and learn from my mistakes and know that this can happen to anybody. My ex is 18 years older than me, okay? So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm with him because he had money or I'm with him because he had a Porsche. No, that wasn't any of that, okay? He did okay for himself. He was a goofball. He worked. We enjoyed the casino. I thought we enjoyed each other's company. Joke's on me. But it's just a wild and crazy story. And I think about 10 women wrote back to me so far, said that they left their toxic ex. One was a fiance, a boyfriend, a husband of, one was 25 years, one was 15 years. Some had children, some didn't. They walked away, no assets, no anything. Thankfully, it was a clean break with my ex. I was living in his home, just paying him rent and God knows everything else he was charging me for when he had no mortgage, by the way. They like to use financial abuse as well. Listen, and I'm all for equality. Yes, you have to help out each other in this world, but, don't take advantage, okay? That's what narcissists love to do. Take, and they don't like to give back. And it's even things that don't cost money. Love, attention, loyalty, affection. They don't give that. So it's a very rough road when you're in it, because I would confide in my best friend Peggy about 2 years before I left him when things were really getting bad. But, it's always these highs and lows. It's the honeymoon period. Then it's, oh my gosh, he's being a bastard. Then it's, oh, we're on a high again. Yay, we're engaged. We booked the wedding. And then he's being a son of a bitch again. So it's just, it plays with your mind because you keep reiterating, going back to saying, this isn't the person I first met. What happened to the guy that was a goofball and would hold my hand for an 8-hour ride to go to the casino for the weekend because we got free rooms and we had nothing to do? Let's go hit the roulette table. Like, what happened to that person? What happened to the fun times? But they get bored and tired of everybody they're with. You could literally be a narcissist dream, okay? And this is what I say in my other podcast too. You could be exactly God's gift to them. God gives me to him. Here is a woman everything you ever wanted, they will purposely self-sabotage because they do not have the capacity to love, to respect, to appreciate what they have, who they have, and be loyal and faithful. They just do not have those tools. But on the other end, I do not feel sorry for them because, like I said earlier, they know exactly what they're doing 100% of the time. There's no remorse, there's no fixing things. It's just all a ploy to get more out of you, whatever it is, time, money, assets, help me with my business, get me out of trouble with the IRS. These are all things I did for my ex. And I did it in a loving, caring way because you want the best for your partner, right? He was doing it for, hey, I have a free secretary that, hey, I get to have sex with, and she lives with me. Oh, and she cooks and she cleans and she pays rent, and I'm going to cheat on her behind her back. But you don't know that at the time. You have no idea because you're so blinded by love. You would never think they do these things, but this is what I teach women. I ask them the questions. Has he acted different? What has changed the last couple of months? What was the last blowout fight? And then we'd pick at things, and then they could put two and two together. So, it's all about what you put up with in life, and then gaining the strength to not put up with it anymore. And I always say you have to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. When I left him, that was the absolute downfall of everything that I was working towards, having a forever life with him, being with him. I mean, come on. I had a failed marriage under my belt, which, a lot of people are divorced. It's nothing to be ashamed about, but just saying. And then I'm with this guy almost 9 years, ready to walk down the aisle. And then it went to shit. And I gave him two chances. So, that wears on somebody's self-esteem. It's like, what the hell is going on? And nobody's perfect in this life. I'm not saying I'm not, nobody is. Everybody can self-reflect and do stuff. But when you're somebody like me who's an empath and has good intentions and really understands that relationships take work, but it takes two to tango, okay? Not one facade and one true person. That's not going to work. So, people who are in narcissistic relationships have to realize that it's a dead end road and you're going to hit the wall crashing eventually. So just get out while you can, do the self healing. You're not going to be the same afterwards. I say this to everybody. It's not like you leave and it's sunshine and rainbows and it's like, hey, let's go get ice cream. Life's great. Lottie freaking da. No, it's not. You're going to hit rock bottom. You're going to have to do a lot of inner work.
Yeah.
I have my specialized therapist, and then you're going to build yourself back up again. And then you're going to have hopefully a support team like I did, my friends, my family, my therapist. And then you say, what makes you happy? And you do it full force. And now you don't have to worry about walking on eggshells, getting an STD, being yelled and screamed at. You just do you. And you just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Is this one of the biggest traits, isolating you from the people that care about you the most?
Oh, yes.
Or-
Yeah, that was a
Or
very big
even
one.
pitting you against the people that like you the most, or like your friends and your parents and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, isolation is a very big tactic. Like I come from a very small family. I have no children. I have no brothers or sisters. I have left a mother, a stepfather, my aunt who's down the shore now, and my grandma's in a nursing home. So say he was working. My aunt would pick me up when she lived up here, when I lived with him. We'd go to ShopRite and he would call me and excuse my language, I'll try to say it in a nice way. He would call me if I didn't pick up like on the second ring. What are you doing? I said, getting food for the house. What's the matter now, Frank? And then, because I don't like to argue, but when you were getting to your end of your rope, then a little more of the Jersey attitude came out. And then he's like, I know you're blowing the guy behind the deli counter. That's why you didn't answer. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly why I didn't pick up the phone. Yep, you caught me red-handed right in aisle 11. Yep, mm-hmm. And my mom would hear him screaming through the phone. She's like, the hell is wrong with him? I said, Mom, I don't know. He's past the midlife crisis because now he's 60. So I'm like, what the hell is going? I don't know. I don't know. So it's just the stupidity what he would say. If my mom called, just said, hey, Jodi, I'm at the store. You want an extra case of water? I'd say, yeah, drop it off. Oh, they have to come over now. And I'm like, they live 5 minutes away. Why does that bother you? Like, and then if I wanted to go out with my friends, oh, forget it. oh yeah, go ahead. But then he wouldn't pick up the phone if I called and checked in with him. And then he would start a big blowout fight, how I was having an orgy, sex with guys at the bar. I don't even drink. I was out with one of my friends who's in her mid 50s, who's married with 3 kids, and like a cover band, an Elton John cover band was playing. Oh yeah, I slept with all the guys of the cover band. I mean, it was just such stupidity, the things he would say. So it came to the point I didn't even realize that I kind of stopped going out with my family a lot, or I wouldn't tell him when he was at work. Like, not that I had a report to him, but I didn't realize I was walking on eggshells. And then my friends would constantly ask me to go out to eat or do this and that. And I would only go out with them if I knew he was working or if I knew he was in a good mood and that there wouldn't be repercussions when I came home and a huge blowout fight. Like, that's how I had to live my life. You don't realize it when you're in it, but when you step out, you're like, oh my God, he really had total control over me. But it's what they do.
Yeah, I watched my mom, like, there was 2 or 3, like how you left him. There were 2 or 3 periods before I actually left my mom for good,
Yeah.
and then I even let her back in my life just a smidge, but I didn't talk
Test
to
it
her
out, yeah.
to test it out.
Yeah.
Oh, where was I going with that? Oh, I watched her start attacking my sister,
It's sad.
and it's like I'm at my niece's funeral, and I'm not talking to my mom, and she works herself around the table, and I'm not really paying attention, and then she lunges herself at me, and she starts immediately telling me what to do, like lunges to give me a hug, because she really loves me, and so I tell her, like, look down, and I'm like, it takes 2 people to have a relationship, and I've done lots
Yes.
for myself, and you haven't done any on yours. So she goes back to the hotel where she's staying with my brother and stuff that I don't talk to. She tells them that I told her it was her fault that my niece died.
Oh
And then,
my
of course,
gosh.
everybody believes her. And it's like, so this year in the spring, I let her stay in my house.
Okay.
And she finally doesn't say a word to me, just finally I'm sitting at the kitchen table. And she walks and she's standing there looking down at me and she starts talking to me and I go, what are you doing talking to me? Like, I don't trust you. And then she goes, why? So I tell her the story.
Yeah.
She had even brought it up to one of my nieces 8 years later. And she denies it. And I just went, I'm done.
You're done.
Didn't
Yep.
argue with her. Didn't. And then my brother that had started coming back into my life, my mom started going like this, and my brother yelled, enough.
Yeah.
Because he knows it's true what she said about me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
That's horrible, but that's a classic narcissistic thing they
yeah.
do.
Yeah.
It's like they're all textbook in a sense.
It's like this bottomless pit.
It truly is. And it never ends. They thrive on chaos. It's like the humdrum of life is too
Yeah.
boring for them. They have to live life on the edge. And I get it. It's like we all want some kind of excitement in life. But when you give somebody that all the time, like I said, when we worked. It's like, what more do you want? And I said that on my other podcast. I'm like, he was sucking the soul out of me. And my best friend Peggy told me at one point, she goes, Jody, you lost the sparkle that was in your eyes when I was with him because she knew how stressed I was with him. Like, I didn't understand why he was doing what he was doing, why he was treating me like shit, why he would just talk to me the way he was talking to me for no reason at all. And he really just started to wear on me. I mean, they do. They just chip away at your self-esteem. You question everything in life. And even now that, I left him almost 2 years ago now. Yes, have I done a lot of self-growth and inner healing? Of course. But like I said earlier, I'm never going to be that same person again. It's not necessarily a bad thing because I'm trying to learn not to be a people pleaser anymore. And it's not because, oh, I want you to like me. It's just an empathetic trait. And you just have to have boundaries. That's the most important thing. Now I have boundaries. And if people don't respect them and then they don't like it, okay, you're done. Because if I can cut off the one person that I wanted to go through life with and to the afterlife with, nobody else matters. You know what I mean? I watched a TikTok earlier, and there's a word they call, it's not necessarily a bad thing, it sounds it, but an empath, usually when they go through a traumatic event, like breaking up with the narcissist, turns into a dark empath, which I certainly have traits of, or maybe can say I've turned into. It basically means when an empath has been so betrayed that they still have a good heart and good intentions, but don't flip that other side of them, because then it's going to be, now I'm in protection mode and now I'm going to do everything to protect my peace. So I completely understand that on the flip coin. Um, it's just, that's what they do to you. It's, you see the world, you look at people and you're like, I always tell everybody, you have to earn my trust. And there's literally like two men I trust right now fully in my life, okay, which is my business partner, my stepfather. And, for women, it's like, three of my best friends. And that's it. And then I have my other close friends, but it's really hard to get close to me. And, when I reiterate back, I'm like, well, it took 2.5 years for my ex to let his mask drop down. That doesn't mean everybody's a narcissist. That doesn't mean everybody's bad. But you certainly have to pay the Pied Piper, and you have to earn your spot in my life. So I'm not going to bring the trauma from my last relationship moving forth into everything else I do in the rest of my life. But on the other side, it's like trust is earned. It's not for free anymore. So this is just life lessons. And like I said, parents are always right. You have to learn from your mistakes. And more importantly, do not repeat. Do not repeat. And that's why I'm a big believer in not really giving second chances. If you go back a third, fourth, fifth, 10th time, what do you think is going to be different? Because every time you go back to a narcissist, you're just training them to say, oh, I could get away with this. And she's going to come back 2 weeks later. Oh, now I could get away with this too. Oh, now she's going to be really pissed off. But I could go screw around for 2 months and whatever, and then she'll come back again. That's what goes on in their mind. It's all a game to them. And they want triangulation. And then they start the smear campaign. And then a new term is post-separation abuse, which is what I'm currently going through in waves, which is, even though there's no contact and no access, they still abuse you. Social media, comments, smear campaigns. They always have to put their 2 cents in. Whereas I don't ever speak of my ex. I speak of my book and how to help people. That's it. So, he's low vibrational, I'm high vibrational. When you don't vibrate on the same level, it's going to clash. So, you just push out the noise. It doesn't affect me. I actually laugh when I hear it, because I'm like, oh, I'm still under his skin. Check. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
That wasn't the goal, but it's just like, buddy, you could have had it all with me, but you chose not to. So, okay. And like I said, you have to hit rock bottom to go back up. And it's still, certain things are difficult. I moved 6 times in 2 years since I left him. 6 times. I'm like, not again. I'm here. I'm back in Bergen County. I said, I'm good. I'm staying here. I'm doing my thing. And then the next thing I'm trying to work on now, hopefully by the fall, I'm trying to set it up. I want to turn my book into a film. So that's what I'm looking to do next, because I do modeling and acting on the side. And I actually made a book trailer to my book. And when I reached out to a couple of my actor friends from stuff I did years ago, they're like, what's a book trail? I'm like, I don't know, but I want to do it. I said, I want to be somebody different. So it was like almost a 3-minute, like nonverbal kind of like trailer, but it was a lot of action and there was a lot of emotion and crying and all that other stuff. So of course we filmed it in New Jersey. Bob, who played Frank, was great in it. And we've been submitting it to film festivals and we keep winning left and right. And we've been doing really great with it. So I'm very thankful to him. His house was amazing. We shot everything there. The car scene, his basement looks like something out of like 1984, the year I was born. Looks like a scene out of a bar. Yeah, it was like red and brown and everything. So it just was really cool. It was a great experience. And now it's, gains more publicity for my book, and then now it's in the film circuit. So now, like I said, I'm actively trying to make it into a full-length feature. And yes, I would love for it to be on Lifetime, because it's certainly the plot story for a Lifetime movie, especially with the title Jekyll Can't Hide. I wanted a good play on words. I wanted something, the name, to be catching, and then especially with the cover, it's dark and mysterious, and it's like, ooh, what's that? Who's that? Why is there a devil behind her? What does that mean, Jekyll can't hide? Oh, wait a minute, two personalities. There's my Gemini mind going. So, but I've gotten a lot of feedback like that from my readers and everything, that was eye-catching to them. So, it's all about, you have to look at it and say, hey, this looks like a great title. I want to see what this is about. So, just trying to get the word out.
Yeah, make it happen.
What was the gentleman that wrote the book? He was a really, well, in his book, he says a really heavy kid, like 400 pounds or something. He's the Marine, and then he went on to running.
Oh, I totally
He's famous, and I just can't. But anyways, when I listened to his book, he actually had, at the end of each chapter, things that you could do to help better your life.
Okay.
I listened to the recording. I have a hard time reading books. So it was somebody reading the recording and then him talking about, like, it went back and forth. It was really,
that's cool.
It was really cool.
Well, that's different.
The reason I'm suggesting that is if you did an audiobook, it would be really good to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe add that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only thing I did a little different at the back of my book is at the end I put that was like a little bit of the chef's kiss at the end. I put a lot of choice. I didn't put them all because there were so many that I was sent. That's explained in the book. The text messages between my ex-fiance and the mistress. So you could see the lingo and how they talk ill of their significant other, making fun of me and everything else, and all the lies he was spewing, and that they both said we're going to have an affair on our partners. And then it went from that, and then I took a picture with everybody, at that time and still in my life, who is important in my life. And I took each individual picture, and I said, this is my friend, this is my business partner, this is my best friend, my parents, everybody who stuck by me through thick and thin. So I just wanted to, say the highs and lows of the relationship, leave it off on a high that I left and made a better life for myself, show the proof, which, that's just a whole other thing in itself. And then it just showed everybody who stuck by me. And then I thanked myself at the end for choosing myself and loving myself more than him, something that I never thought was possible, to be honest, because they get their hooks in you and you think like, oh, you're my soulmate. No, you're straight from hell, dude. Go back.
Yeah, and relationships do teach us something, right? They show us something, they reflect back something, they help us to understand something more deeper about ourselves. And the reminder is to look within, to work within, to heal within, and to come out, quote unquote, better on the other side of it.
Absolutely. For sure. There was a lot of learning lessons. I mean, maybe the only truths he ever said, out of a couple of them, he always would say, babe, you're too nice. You're too nice. Yes, I am. I am too nice. And that I still struggle with, but I try to only be nice to the people who deserve it, if that makes sense. And like I said, have those boundaries up. And he'd constantly tell me how much he loves me, and he knows how much that I really loved him for him, which is such a paradox, because then it's like, then why did you do what you did? But they're the biggest self-sabotagers. They can't hold on to anything good. It's kind of like a drug addict has a rehab center in front of them and then heroin. It's like they rather struggle on the street with the heroin the rest of their life than just walking through that rehab center and fixing themselves. I know it's two different things, but it's kind of like the same analogy,
It's not, but in my opinion, most drug addicts and alcoholics, like 74% of people with ADHD medicate themselves with drugs and alcohol.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
74% of people with major trauma medicate themselves with drug and alcohol. So we go into these rehab centers and they don't address that. Most, I won't say all of them, because the ones that I've been to just push the 12 steps of one of the 12-step programs, and
Yes.
that helps clear off some of the wreckage. However, and some people walk in and it's brilliant. They get it right away. And somebody
Yep.
like me, I was around 12-step programs for 20 years before
Wow.
I stayed clean. And
Okay.
next month on the 22nd, I'm 23 years clean and sober.
Wow.
And
Congratulations.
however, I'm going to go about 11 years, I was divorced. 12 years, I was diagnosed with cancer. 13 or 14 years, I was diagnosed with diabetes. And now it's
Oh my
like,
gosh.
now you took the only drug that I could still do, like candy and sugar. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was mad and I was suicidal and I was like, and I'm really glad all that happened, because I wouldn't have met Lisa if all that
Yes.
didn't happen. I wouldn't have hit my bottom and reached out and done different. Because if what you're doing is not working, you need to do different.
Absolutely. 100%.
And the only person that's accountable for that is you and
Yes.
the decisions you make. And a lot of people think decisions are, you make a decision to go to the store, but you sit on the couch.
Yeah.
So really, you only made a thought to go to the store, because the decision is actually going to the store.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. But like you said, you took accountability,
Yeah.
you got the
Yeah.
help, and you met your beautiful wife, and then, you made a great life for yourself.
Yeah.
And when I met her, the last thing I was looking for was a relationship.
And me too.
Yep.
Final pause. If you've got a message on your heart and want to be our guest, don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you. Visit ForwardWalkingChoices.com, scroll to the Soulmates and Suitcases podcast section, and click Apply Here. Now back to the show.
Yep.
We were both
Absolutely.
at this place of, like, what you were talking about, Jodi, is that personal growth. So what does this mean for me, and how do I need to, create boundaries? How do I need to better my life? How do I need to understand myself more? What do I want? What do I don't want? Because that was one of the activities that we did. What do you not want in your life anymore? And you very clearly have figured that out as well, right? And
Absolutely.
it's an ongoing journey, right? It's an ongoing journey of understanding yourself, and these relationships that we find ourselves in teach us something about ourselves and what we want and don't want. And so, yeah, so your story is extremely fascinating in regards to, I think a lot of people will connect with you because they'll be questioning their own relationship. And is this where I want to stay? That's I think the big thing. Is this where I want to remain? And if it's not looking like, like you said, like the sort of, what's the word? I want to call it torture, but the sort of life that continues. If you don't want that anymore, you have a choice. There are
You do have a choice. It's very, trust me, like I said, because I've been there literally twice. You have to sit with yourself and say, do I want to be tortured, like you said, the rest of my life with, mistresses and whores and everything else, and being treated like crap just because I love somebody so much? Or do I take a stand and say, I deserve a much better life, and I gave this person two chances? So, we're not 12 years old. We're grown-ups here. So you got to just make that decision for yourself, and most importantly, stick to it. And I tell my clients, to whoever calls, if you ever have a low point, there's no problem with calling a friend, your mother, your father, just saying, I'm feeling weak or something. Like I said, I never personally struggled with it, but I always tell everybody, just do something, watch a movie, go have your ice cream, just get them out of your mind, because no contact's the best way. And for people who do have children, or they're in the middle of a divorce, it's called the gray rock method. You just don't really talk to them. Yes, no, okay. Like I'm picking up little Anthony at 3 p.m. Okay. Have him home by 8 p.m. Okay. Thank you. Boom. That's it. Do not engage. That's what they want. Just keep it to a minimal. Again, if you have children with them, hopefully they're going to be a present parent, and you just kind of just live your separate life, and you put obviously the children first. But for somebody like me who didn't have children and anything commingled yet at that point, thankfully, it was I don't want to say it was easier to walk away, but it was just a blocked phone call and just let's focus on Jodi now for once in her life.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah, so there's your book, Jekyll Can't Hide.
Yes.
And so where can everybody get your book?
Yes, it's available on Barnes and Nobles online, but it's most commonly found and bought on Amazon. It's on Kindle, it's on audiobook, hardcover, softcover. It's on everything. I'm on Facebook. I'm Meta certified Jodi Lynn Pavlock, Instagram Jodi Pavlock, and TikTok Jodi P 1984. And then also on Facebook, I run a narcissistic abuse support group called Jodi's Triumph. So anybody's welcome to join. I'm going to be starting that up again because I literally just moved into this apartment not even 2 months ago. So I'm getting everything rocking and rolling again with the narcissistic group. But I try to answer everybody's DMs and any questions or anything that they have and just try to have a helping hand.
Amazing. That I'm so grateful that you are offering sort of your story, your wisdom, your knowledge that you've learned over the last your life.
Yes.
And, amazing connections, and we'll make sure that we put all that information in the description so anyone can reach out to you, get your book, be part of your community, and that sort of thing. So we thank you very much, Jodi, for your story today and for sharing with us. And we wish you all the best. And we would like to say thank you in our usual Thai way. So we'll say thank you very much.
Very nice. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It's been awesome.
Yes, we appreciate it.
Want to get our books fast and at the best price? Get your electronic copy at https://payhip.com/Lisa Scott Brearley authors. Again, that's https://payhip.com/Lisa Scott Brearley authors.